welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. Let's talk about math and soccer, aka football. And whether you call it soccer or whether you call it football, I think we can agree that it is big. It is insanely popular. With that in mind, I'm going to talk about math and soccer, and I'm going to talk about how math is involved after going over the basics of the game, and we will go from there. That being said, if you have anything to contribute to the conversation, please do. Um, let's get into it. So, when it comes to soccer, the general idea is you're using primarily your feet to get the ball across the field. Um, that's the big thing, right? Now, it's usually a team sport. And so it's your team versus the opposing team, and you have your goalies, you have the other side of the court, and you're trying to get into their zone and score, right? Um, and just on that base level, there's math involved, and I dig it, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. Now I don't want to go and do a tangent too far with that, but so I'm going to focus in. There's math in the game, how it's scored, the fact that it's scored in the first place. There's math in the ball, what it's composed of, what you're doing with it, its shape, its weight, how much it's full, and there's a bunch of rules and regulations that come with that. But not only that, there's math on the field that you're playing with, its dimensions, what it's covered with, the different parts of that field, um, and there's math in the players, what they're doing, the stats that they accumulate, what they're doing in regards to each other, but also the ball, right? Because you got to figure, if you're playing soccer, right? Like, and let's say you're kicking that ball across the field, there's math in the force that you're using, the speed that you're going at, the speed that you're kicking the ball, the different positions and angles that are happening throughout all of that. And meanwhile, you have your team, you have what they're doing, you have what your opponents are doing, and you have to focus on both of those things while trying to get that ball across. And you might be trying to get your ball to, someone else who has a better shot of getting that goal, right? So you have to consider the teamwork, right? Passing it to your other players, and meanwhile trying to not get that ball stolen from you. And so it's interesting, right? Because like on its base level, you're trying to score points and trying to stop your opponent from scoring points. But in doing so, so much is happening. So much is happening on that field and with your bodies, with your teammates and your opposition and the ball itself. And so not only is there math with everything that I just said and all the stuff previously, but there's math on what's going on with your body. And there's math in the training that leads up to playing. There's math again in the stats that you accumulate. And I think that's all pretty cool. And then you got to figure soccer or football again, if you prefer, or wherever you're from. The idea is like soccer slash football is huge, right? It's worldwide. And there's a lot of rules and regulations that come with that. There's a lot of money that comes with that. And there's math in building these fields, math in the equipment, math in the promotions and the funding, the sponsorship, the marketing, the logistics of it all. Organizing tournaments, making money for those tournaments, ticket pricing, you name it. There's math at every conceivable level, and I don't feel like that stuff gets talked about enough. What I think about when I think about sports, what I think is interesting is like one, people are doing some like crazy things with it. Sorry, the ice maker is in the background. I thought I turned that off. It was not off, but I digress. Um, so the big thing is like there's math at every conceivable level in sports. I think is cool because yeah, people doing crazy awesome things, and they're putting in the time, they're putting in the energy, they're putting in the effort, they're training, they're eating this food, that food, being strategic, working with coaches, making plays, doing all this crazy stuff, and all the while it's a good example of math just on every level. And I think that's really cool. And soccer being a sport and just being something that exists in a universe is not immune to math. It runs on it. It isn't. Um, so with that in mind, I don't want this to be too long, but my basic idea was that like, hey, soccer is a game, and the fact that you're playing it and scoring points is enough to say math is involved, but it goes much deeper than that, right? We're dealing with a lot of motions, we're dealing with a lot of shapes, we're dealing with a lot of physics, calculus, geometry, chemistry, biology, you name it. and money, of course. But yeah, so I hope this gives you something to think about if you weren't already thinking about it. And if nothing else, I hope you enjoy hearing about soccer or football. And I hope you discuss it and kindly in the comments. That being said, I'll see you in the future.